now.
Just actually, you've got those photos there. I appear to have lost.
Yeah, it's done. Thank you all. It's done.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar today. It's all about International Women's Day and celebrating the fantastic achievements of two wonderful women, Sujatha Thaladi and Colonel Taniya Morris. It's going to be an informal chat basis. They're going to talk to each other about their experiences of flying during their military careers, but also just to let you know that this is being recorded for posterity, but it's also going out live on YouTube. So without further ado, I'd just like to introduce those who don't know Sujatha. Sujatha is the founder of the mentoring charity, and it's all about looking after and developing people, offering them support through adversities that they face. And Colonel Taniya, she's over 30 years service within the British Army, with flying helicopters, being one of the first females to fly helicopters in the British Army as well. Currently, she's heading up the planning and delivery of the British Army's support to COVID here in Wales. So there's a lot of experience. They've got a lot to say, and I'm looking forward to what they've got to say, because it's going to be an eye-opener, I'm sure. So first of all, over to Sujatha. Sujatha, please.
Thank you very much, Peter, for inviting me to this session, and especially from British Army. It's a privilege to me. I go back nearly 40 years, how I was a national cadet, and then I was a member of Army, and then I became a pilot as well. So it's very good memory for me. And how I started off was, I was just in Army, and then that particular year they started Air Force, Air Wing, as well as naval services for ladies, for women. I opted for both because I wanted to do something different, because I was already in Army. It was mostly march past and guns. I think we used to know how to shooting. I thought, no, let me just try something different, because I was young and I wanted to do something different. So I opted for both, but that year they started only for Air Force, Air Wing. So I was selected as one of the cadets to practice to become a pilot, glider pilot. So that's how I started off. What about you, Taniya?
Well, Sujatha, I think that's amazing, because that's 40 years ago. I started 30 years ago, which actually was before women were flying with the armed forces in UK. So that's 10 years later, and we still didn't have any female pilots. So I think that's extraordinary in its own right. But I was always wanted to join the Army. My parents were military, and I'd loved flying. My grandmother had been a Spitfire delivery pilot in the Second World War, so she was quite an inspiration to me. And I was at university, and my very last year at university, the Air Corps recruiting team came to visit, and they brought a couple of helicopters down, a Lynx and a Gazelle, and we went flying, and I just loved it. I was hooked from that second onwards. I'd done some flying with my dad before, but this was it. And I always remember my friends tell me that night when we all got together afterwards, I was super excited, saying this is what I want to do. But the recruitment team who came down, who were giving us a talk that evening, basically said, no, well, you can't. We don't have any female pilots. So that totally dampened my enthusiasm at that point. But I knew it was going to change. The RAF had just recruited their first female pilot. So I just hung on. I said, I'm not going to be put off by this. I waited, and the second the rules changed, I applied, and then 5 years later on, I was on a pilot's course, training to be a military pilot. So
That's interesting. I was a national cadet. I was studying BSc undergraduate. So we had a free training, and I thought, let me take this opportunity to get trained. So, but it took me a year to become a pilot, as well as we had to undergo rigorous training. It's not that easy like a car driving. I thought, oh, I can get onto a plane and then learn, and then I could be a pilot. But I had to have rigorous training. It's like jumping 8 feet, running every day for nearly 3-4 miles every day, and it was so tough. The most important one was going on camps, especially. It was a must. We have to learn how to survive in camps, because when I was young, I never knew what hunger was. When I was on camp, I used to feel so hungry. I wasn't prepared that I could carry some stuff, like chips, crisps, anything. But what I did, it's good experience to be hungry as well.
Yeah.
You have to get that feeling of what is hunger, what it is to be away from the family, and then how others behave. It's a teamwork as well. And then we fight, we argue. It's about, you have to go to the field. There is no toilet. You have to go to the fields and then do it. So they prepare us so much that if there is any war, what will you do? You don't have a 5-star, or you're not at home. So that's one thing. It really, it's very emotional as well when I look back. And that time I did not like, I was young, but the more I look back, I feel you might have to sacrifice so much to be in this. And I think it's very important that youngsters should have a kind of experience being in that army or defense. You become patriotic as well. So I became patriotic.
Do you think that the fact that you were being forced to do things that were difficult, so being forced out of your comfort zone, has been, really beneficial to you in the longer run? That made you for me, I think that's made me a better person, because I've been forced to face and confront situations that are not comfortable, and are difficult. But I now know that I can cope with these things because I've had to go through it. Did you find that's sort of beneficial in the long run for you?
It is, because we know how to fight. And we I don't know if Malcolm Wolf, one of my glider pilot, is Malcolm Wolf here? You can unmute yourself. We were all nearly 45 girls initially, and then we had few boys, and they used to, not bullying, but they used to tease us. Oh, you can't do this, and so I don't know if. Hi, is that Malcolm?
Hi, Sujatha. Yes. Hi.
Hi. Can we see you? Because I can't see you. Where is
Malcolm? Can you see me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Congratulations, ladies, for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was showing the picture, Malcolm. You remember this photograph?
That's so glamorous.
Oh yes, in the glider.
That's Malcolm, and we have done gliding together. Nice to see you too. Come on, we have to share our experiences, how we've done gliding together. Malcolm, it's nice to have you here. Currently, Malcolm is in India.
And it's nighttime.
Yeah, and it's nighttime, and I brought the dogs down for a little time out. There you can see her.
Hello, Pooch.
Hi.
Ivy. Oh.
Yeah, you want to share how I was as a glider pilot? He was the best, actually. To be honest, Malcolm was the best.
Well, not really.
Well.
Sujatha was, I would say she was very diligent. She would be there all the time, especially pushing the glider. You had to push it first before you flew it. So, it was great fun. And we did a few sorties together. So I moved on and I did power flying, and then I joined the Air Force. And I was there for about 12.5 years before I quit.
Wow.
So, now it's nice. India's got
Sujatha a model student?
Sorry?
Was Sujatha the model student?
Well.
That year, Malcolm, you remember, that was the year they started for ladies, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was the
Yes,
first
yes.
year they started for women. So I'm the second glider pilot of Andhra Pradesh. There was another lady who got it first.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were all doing the same. It's just that she went flying solo first, and then
Yeah,
next
so
next
go on
one
then.
was mine.
Tell us about your first solo then, Sujatha.
It's amazing. What do you think, Malcolm? See, I don't know how many of you know what gliding is. I'll hand it over to Malcolm to explain more because he's got flying experience as well. It's only a two-seater. So if you are just one person, it tilts. So you have to have if you're going for a solo, you have to have a bag, sack. It should almost should be to balance it.
The weight.
And you go up, and you have to be so smart enough to gaze the height when you have to pull out from the winch, look at the height, look at the birds or any vultures. And the best part of it is thermal. When we want to go up and up and up, you have to look at the thermal, which will take your glider up. Normally it will be about 600 feet or 1,000 feet max. So you can go up and up. So those are the things we've learned. But then as a solo glider pilot, that time, it is so nervous because always you have an instructor beside you, and all of a sudden you've got nobody. You're going up. You're young, I was young. And the experience of going alone and then landing safely is an achievement. So, and being a lady pilot as well. So I was one of the, one of very few girls, I think in the end, only 3 or 4 of us could make it first, second, and third. It's not an easy training. We had to forego our studies, university, everything, and then go for the class. It's challenging in terms of time. And I was doing my science graduation. Over to you, Malcolm. You want to say something about how difficult was it to coordinate studies as well as
it was hard work. You had to be dedicated to do gliding and flying because that was extra. So you had to do your college and studies and then actually give some time and effort to do gliding. But we'd probably spend half the day or the whole day just to get one launch or maybe 2 launches for the day. So a lot of effort, very little time in the air.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, I've done a little bit of gliding more recently, and I still feel deeply uncomfortable without an engine.
Yeah, this is another thing. I don't know how many of you in the audience know that the glider that we have flown is not power gliding. It's just without power, without engine. That is another thing scary. I don't know how many of you kite flying. It's almost like kite flying, right? You have kite attached to the rope, and then you cut it off, and then the kite flies, right? It just lands.
But you only have one chance to land it, don't you? You can't fly away.
Yeah.
True.
So
True. And if you're undershooting, God help you.
Yeah, exactly. So we used to have an equivalent thing. I was a helicopter pilot, and we do a practice landing called, it's an engine off landing. So it's practicing auto rotation. Yeah. So you would, particularly in one of the helicopters that I flew, the Gazelle, you would do a full engine off landing. So you literally would turn the engines off, not completely, but you take the drive away, and you landed it with no engine, having auto rotated down, and that was fully committed. That for me is like every single flight in a glider, surely.
The most toughest was for me to gauge how much height you have to glide properly, and then you have to land in such a way that you're in the airway. You can't just go into any fields, so that was one thing. It was very challenging, and it was good that we had good instructors like Squadron Leader Alvarez, Squadron Leader Baduri, and I think they retired as Air Commodore, I don't know, but they have really trained as well. And with somebody like Malcolm Wolf and all, they used to tell us a lot of tips, how to do, how to take care of, and it was good. Peer support was very good.
Like better to overshoot than to undershoot.
Yeah. So what did your family think about it, Sujatha?
My family I didn't tell my parents, my dad, that that I've done gliding, I don't think he would have allowed me, because after we did a solo, our instructor, squadron leader Baduri, visited our house and then said, your daughter has done, solo. My dad asked, what is it about? And he learned everything. He said, how did you do that? What if anything happens to you? I said, what is there? You got another daughter, another son. So my dad said, no, it is halfway through. What will you do? I was young, I wanted to take risks. But later on, they were all very happy. But unfortunately, I couldn't continue. Malcolm is fortunate enough to do power gliding and then went into Air Force. But I couldn't join Air Force because of personal circumstances.
Yeah.
How did you make it, Taniya?
Well, I had a 17-year career in the British Army as a regular officer. I'm now in the reserve forces, so I'm not flying anymore. But I did 12 years flying with the Army Air Corps. So I did my pilot training started in 1996. It took a year then. So we started off on Chipmunks, which was an old dual single engine aircraft trainer. We did 30 hours on that. So you had your first solo flight on fixed wing. And then you went straight onto helicopters. So the training helicopter then was the Gazelle, which is a great little helicopter. And it was a year in total on the pilot's course before you then graduated, got your wings. And then I went to become a flight commander out in Germany with the Army. And I did, as I said, about 11 years in total with the Army Air Corps. So I was the first female to be cat badged in the Army Air Corps. I wasn't the first one to do the pilot's course. There were 3 or 4 before me, but I was the first one to stay and have a career. And I commanded a squadron of Lynx helicopters. We did operational deployment in Iraq, and I was also on operations in Bosnia. And then I left. I actually left the regular army close to, thinking back now, 12, 13 years ago. But I had 17 years with a lot of fun flying over those years, and then rejoined now as an Army Reserve officer, which is what I'm doing now.
I regret being a pilot. If I get a chance, I want to, but I don't know whether I'm brave enough to go on air again without engine, glider without engine.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Taniya, I wanted to ask you, if somebody wants to join British Army, can they be still pilot? Can they? Yeah. How long does it take? And
so things are very different to when I joined, actually, Sujatha. So a lot of jobs were not available to women. Certainly when I did first join, it was just starting to open up and make and sort of widen the employment opportunities. But things have changed enormously over the last 20 odd years. And now every single trade that's available in the British Army, in the armed forces, are available to women. So there are no bars or restrictions. People are judged by their individual ability. So yeah, women can come and fly. They can become a pilot with the Army Air Corps. And of course, now we're flying lots of very sophisticated aircraft. So the Apache helicopter, the Wildcat helicopter, incredibly capable, some of the best in the world. And there are women doing that, going through and are very much involved in all of those roles.
So in general, I think people think that there are certain jobs in, whether it is Army, Air Force, or Navy, that there are some jobs that women cannot do.
Yes.
But I was going through a video by, somebody sent me from RAF. Stephen had sent me RAF video when I was going through it, and there was somebody who's mentioning that they themselves thought, being now recruited in RAF, they thought that those are not the jobs that they are fit for women. But they said,
well, I think that's the amazing thing, is that I am surprised that people still, even when I speak to young soldiers nowadays, even some of the young soldiers didn't realize that some of the young girls didn't realize that if they wanted to, they could become a pilot, for example, even today. So that's a message that we really need to get out there. And I think it's less and less now that society are stereotyping women into specific roles in life. It exists, obviously, but it's getting the boundaries are far less blurred. And I think, for me, one of the best things about the military is that those boundaries are far more blurred than in many other sectors of society. We've got girls in the infantry, we've got girls in tanks, we've got girls doing the Royal Horse Artillery, all the ceremonial stuff in London. They're in every single role, and it's fabulous, and working alongside their male counterparts doing exactly the same job.
Do you have to be away from the family when you're in army or any?
I think, yeah, you have to accept that you are going to be away quite a lot, without a doubt. But I think most people join the army because they want that bit of adventure, or they want the opportunity to go to places that you would never really get the opportunity to go to, doing things. I've been free fall parachuting in California. The obvious things are obviously the operational tours that you have to accept as part of the job. But in addition to that, I've skied competitively for the army all around the world. I've been free fall parachuting. I've been diving. I've done all sorts of, really exciting stuff that nowhere else would you have the opportunity to do it.
There is somebody asking for advice. What would you give to people what advice would you give to people who are considering joining the army or military?
Well, I think I would say to do your research. So there's lots and lots of information online about what sort of jobs are available, what you can do, because you can be anything from a chef to a military clerk, to, as I said, to a pilot, to the roles are infinite. So there are military lawyers, vets, dog handlers, almost anything that exists in civil society, there is a similar sort of job in the military. So decide what you want to do, do your research, and then obviously go through the army recruiting, but just give it a go. I mean, a lot of people are put off, I think, because they think the army is all about shouting and it's all about being bossed around and ordered what to do all the time. It's not like that at all. Obviously there are some elements of it that quite tough during training. It's not easy, but then nothing in life is easy. So just give it a go. And if you find it's not for you, but at least you've given it a go. That's my big thing in life, is that you really never know until you've given anything a try. And then you can make that final decision. But
yeah. Thank you, Taniya. I wanted to ask you, I remember when I was on camps, we used to use a communication, some kind of a code language to talk to each other. So we used to form a different groups, like other group is an enemy. So we used to talk to each other. Is this still done that way, or do we have any other communication system? Maybe technology has changed now.
Well, so in terms of encoding things, so yes, I mean, you used to have to spend hours trying to code things into it. It was a system called battle code, BATCO, and it was very labor intensive, where you were literally doing a cipher's job, if you like. But now most of it, like most communication systems around the world, it's all electronic, sort of very clever coding, and very the sort of all the security is done. So most stuff is effectively, you don't have to speak a secret language. It's all the technology does that all for you effectively. Definitely. Yeah. So if you, what about, I'm just going back to your experiences, Sujatha. So about, did you want to carry on the flying? Is that something you miss, that you regret not carrying on? I know it's not easy to carry it on, but
yes, as I wanted to become a pilot, but it was very expensive even those times, to go for a commercial training. I don't think there was any in the local area where I was living. It was mostly North India, where I had to go and get trained. It was very, very expensive, so I couldn't afford. And I don't think my parents would have allowed. So I regret, but at the same time, it's fine. You know, I've done it. At least I've done what at the right time. Being a second.
Did you sort of? What about your own children? Do you ever try and encourage them to do that, or?
I did, but they wanted to after graduation. As I said, they couldn't commit. You know, the younger generation, they don't want to commit for more than 2 years, and then they said, "Oh, 5 years I have to commit if I join army." That's what she said. So I feel bad, but now looking back, recently, my older daughter was saying I should have, joined army. So I think. That's what the message is for all of you youngsters or parents who would like to encourage your children or grandchildren, to encourage them to do the right thing at the right time. And army is one of the best, where I feel it's more disciplined, very open. And in the evening, we used to have on camps, we used to have a cultural program. So we all used to come together. Army officers used to come with their family members, and we used to sing, dance. Each evening, we used to have some new item to be performed, the games that we used to play, the dance and singing. Everyone used to have such good talent. They used to come out with talents or improve on those. So it's a very good environment that I miss out. And they're so good. Families are so good. I learned something from the families, especially the Air Force. Family members used to say, we don't know what happens to our family member. They may be called for war anytime. Any moment. They have to just leave us, and we don't know whether they're going to come back or not. That's one thing.
That's the difficult part for the family.
Yeah, but they were full of life. They were not mourning, or they were not complaining. That's what I learned from them, that they're so strong, they're so supportive of their family members, and they encourage them to carry on, and they're prepared mentally that if anything happens, we have to be prepared. And that's one thing I've learned when I was young. I think when you're young, you have to meet such kind of people. So when you listen to that, you think, wow, I can do that. I should be able to do that. So
did you've kept in touch with lots of friends from that time when you were flying and gliding, and still in touch with them?
Yeah, yes. One of my friends, I think Malcolm is gone or he's there. Another friend of mine, he flies charter planes still, and he comes to, which is the airport here in London, Far East, B, starts with B, they land there. It's a private landing, for business people. He comes in, but he goes within 2 days back. So I can't remember what is the name of the
Blackwood. Is it Blackwood?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, is it near Far East? Well,
Farnborough, yes, it's in that direction. Yeah.
So he comes in there. He still flies, but he did many hours of fly. So he still continues flying. I requested him also to come and share his experience as a glider pilot and how he moved on to commercial as a commercial pilot and all. It's interesting how I'm in touch with all of my friends, and they have taken different routes, but mainly Malcolm Wolf, who you spoke to, and Ramakrishna, another person who went on to private gliding, a commercial pilot. Those are the two outstanding people who really made use of our gliding, and then they moved on with their careers.
Yeah. Most of my colleagues are either still flying, or a lot of them went into to commercial pilots or commercial flying when they left the military. Flying all over the world on the oil rigs in the North Sea, or a friend of mine's flying out of Calgary in Canada, and I'm always seeing sickeningly beautiful photographs of the sort of Rockies and his flying. So yeah, there's a lot of my old colleagues are still doing it.
Yeah. Shall we ask our audience to ask?
Sujatha, it's Pete. I was just going to ask if there were any specific obstacles that were sort of put in your way that as a woman to join the, to become a pilot, that you specifically had to overcome. Because what's interesting is that you've both come from different continents, and yet you've achieved greatness within the ability to fly. And from my point of view, you know, I mean, there must have been so many obstacles in your way to fight through to get to where you wanted to be. So it's an open question to both of you, really. So who wants to answer first? Taniya.
Well, I think the first obstacle, Pete, was that women weren't allowed to do it in the military. So there's a fairly major one. But obviously that changed. I think, do you know what? I would say one of the main obstacles is confidence, is your own personal confidence. And I think a lot of people are limited because, I couldn't do that, you know, and they self-limit. So I think for me, that's an obstacle that you need to try and endeavor to get over yourself. And as I said before, you just don't know until you give something a try. And I think you'll always surprise yourself how you can do something. There's obviously certain limitations with flying with regards to aptitude. So your eyesight, clearly mine's not as good as it used to be, but you have to there are certain things that you can't necessarily affect. So your eyesight or your natural aptitude. So some people are not very good with spatial awareness, for example, and you clearly need that to be able to fly. So, but like I say, just the main obstacles are normally often internal from my perspective. And it's just about getting over that confidence, having the confidence, and then not allowing people to have preconceptions. So, you know, certainly when I first joined, people made assumptions about, well, you're a girl, you probably won't be very good at the certain parts of the training, like the tactical, the military side of the military application of becoming a pilot. And you just have to prove them wrong, you know, and I did. I got the prize for the best student on my pilot's course as the only woman. And, you know, there were certain men who were going, well, clearly she's not, you know, she'll probably get through. But, you know, and I just proved them wrong. And that's the way to go for it.
You're such an inspiration, Taniya. Same thing happened to me when I was growing up and when I learned, you know, I'm the second glider pilot in the state where I was. It was very new for any girl to become a pilot. And I don't think we had any lady pilots, commercial pilots as well. So it was very, very nascent, very, very new to people. So it's about culture. It's about the family thinking, oh, you're going to become a pilot. So I was withdrawn from that, and I was a science student. So I carried on with the postgraduate in science. So even in science, you know, when I was teaching after my postgraduation in chemistry, my students said, oh, your chemistry, we are used to a male lecturer for chemistry and physics and maths. So it's a stereotype for some subjects in India, especially. I don't know about here, but that's what they felt, that you are not fit to be a chemistry teacher, kind of. But once we started teaching, they couldn't say anything. So imagine being a pilot, a lady pilot, how backward we were. Or now I think it's accepted, but when I was growing up, it was very, very difficult to get through even this as a pilot. You know, our lecturers, our families and all said, why are you doing this? Why do you have to do this? So I just wanted to get a feeling of, you know, how it is to be in the army, how it is. It's a different, I've learned a lot when I was with the army and the Air Force. That's important. It developed my personality, the attitude towards life. As I said, I met the family members and they are so positive about it. They respected the roles of Air Force or army. And it's an eye-opening for everyone, and me especially when I was young, and they are my role models. And I'll always look back saying they were so positive, though they know that, you know, anything can happen to them. So that's one thing. Yeah. Yes,
you told of an interesting story when you passed. Could you reflect and recount the story of when you did pass and how that went down at home?
Sorry, I didn't. What is that story? Sorry.
The story of what you told us before of when you've passed as a pilot and how that story was received at home. That's a very interesting story.
Yes. When I did my gliding, solo gliding, I didn't know how great it was because I did it. But when I went home the following day, few people came to our house and they knocked at our door, and my dad opened the door. It was late in the evening, about 6:15 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And then he said, "Who is that? A lot of people coming and asking for you." And I said, "What did I do?" And I was so scared. And they said, "Oh, we want to speak to Sujatha, who did a solo." And I thought, my goodness, they're all coming to talk to me. That's media. Those days, people used to just walk in, and there was no TV, there was radio. So newspapers and other media people, they came in. And I was scared because I didn't know how to approach, how to respond to that. But after a while, I thought, oh, we are so popular and I made it. I felt it very, very, very proud of what I have achieved. Media makes a lot of difference as well, but that's something, sorry, I forgot to share with you. Thanks, Peter, for reminding me. The most important one was landing safe, that was so scary for me. And when I've done that alone, landing safe, that was the most important thing, and not to spoil my glider as well, because it was free for us and I had to be very careful. It's like a car. You have to take care of the car, right? So I had to look after the glider as well. So that was the most important. Media is media, but yes, that was, thank you for reminding me, Peter. That's an amazing story of mine when I was approached by media, for which I thought, I haven't done anything wrong. Why are they coming? I was scared. But there were nearly 7-8 people knocking at our doors to get a glimpse of me and taking the story and write that story.
Thank you, Sujatha. I just thought now perhaps there might be an opportunity to open up to those that are listening in to ask any questions.
Feel free to ask us. Feel free now. I think I saw in some chats, but please come and talk to us.
Yeah, one of the questions in the chat was, how old are you? But I wasn't going to ask that question.
Yes, I was
when
about
you were flying.
18. I was 18 when I got my gliding, because that is one of the age restrictions. So when I was 17, I joined. And then by the time I did my training on ground, we have to have thorough training. And then actual training was at the age of 18. So by the time I done it, it isn't long actually training, but yes, around 18. I was 18.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody?
Silence, come there.
Oh, no, we got connecting to audio.
Is there anybody?
How do you encourage young girls to join around 16 and 18, going around schools? Because occasionally they need just encouragement and some financial support as well.
Well, so, I can't answer that one directly because I'm not involved in recruiting at all. But so I think, Pete, that's probably in your area, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. There is a school engagement program that we have, and it looks specifically at encouraging the learning through STEM, so science, technology, and engineering, mathematics. So we have a whole series of lessons that we can support school children in engaging with them to show what opportunities are available within the armed forces, in particular the Army. There's an engagement team here, regional engagement team, and if you want to have more information, or you want to, perhaps you're in the education yourself and you'd like somebody to come along, then drop your details into us here, and we can make that happen. It's important to know it's not recruiting. It is absolutely engagement. It's talking about the opportunities available and to break down the misconceptions, like we've been doing today, that everything is open to everyone within the British Armed Forces.
So I think the engagement is really important. because it helps people to just understand what it's about. And you don't want people like me necessarily going to speak to young girls, because I'm far too old, and they're, you know, they don't want to be looking at someone their mother or grandmother's age to be understanding what it's like. But so we've got some really, really motivated, super young soldiers who can go and give their first-hand, up-to-date experience with the team that's out there for engagement. So I think Pete will put the contact details in the chat bar for people if they're interested.
Yeah, definitely.
Peter, I think a couple of people raised their hands.
They have, yes.
Thank you.
I think, sorry, oh, sorry. I was, thought Nita was going to come back with another question then, but no, we got Galaxy M40 with a hand up.
You can unmute yourself, please.
There we go.
Yeah. Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I'm from India. I'm a friend of Sujatha. Hi. I'm a friend of Sujatha Thaladi. Nice to meet everyone. And I'm very proud of that. I'm a friend of Sujatha, and she's doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't see you, so I don't know.
This is Uma Nagar, your friend.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Nice to
Hi.
see you.
Yeah. Are you able to see me?
No, I can't. We can't see you, but it's good to see you. Would you be able to advise your grandchildren to come and join British Army? I think your son was here, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. My son. Both are. My son family is a British citizen.
And would you advise your grandchildren to come and join British Army?
Presently they are very small. As they grow, definitely I do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sujatha, do you want to mention something about the mentoring?
Yes, we are a mentoring charity. We are based in Cardiff, and we help individuals in the areas of education, employment, health, and community cohesion. And we've got various mentoring activities for those who are referred to us, and they can choose whatever mentoring activities that are meaningful to them. And sometimes we advise them, but it doesn't work out. So you can find more details about our services and activities. And we've got loads and loads of events as well happening. And a lot of our people are vulnerable. So they have got language barriers and they don't have confidence. But there are people who would like to grow, like, for example, if they want to join army. And so we have mentoring activities, mentoring sessions, workshops like this, like today. If it were face-to-face, we would have requested some people to come and attend today's session on a face-to-face, on a one-to-one basis as well. Mentoring activities for education and employment is always about CV writing, interview skills, confidence building, personal development. And then health-wise, we've got like healthy eating, fitness exercises, and also we meet regularly on a weekly basis to motivate people to do what they should be doing. And it's all about physical and mental well-being. As somebody recently said, even finance is a problem. So employment is one of the issues. People need to be employed to make both ends meet. For that, we need to encourage them to apply for jobs, to get trained if they want to upskill their skills, encourage them to do something, career shift. And so we're working towards that. We use mostly one-to-one or bespoke or peer mentoring sessions or group mentoring sessions. So that is where we share our experiences and motivate it. That's in short, but you can have a look at our website, www.mentoring.org.uk. I can see Mavia raised his hand. Good to see you, Mavia.
Hey, good afternoon. Hi, sorry for joining slightly late, Sujatha. It was wonderful to hear your talk. My question's not going to be an actual question, but I've got an army background, and my children, I've got a son and two daughters, and they're going to be joining the Air Force cadet. I'm army background, but for some reason they want to join the Air Force. and which is all well and good. You know, if they want to fly, that's, I'm happy with that, as long as they join in something. And I think it's important to have diversity within the armed forces, because unless we have diversity, that we have army officers that look and sound like people they represent, we then it encourages more people to join. So I'm hoping that we can raise the profile of cadets, because if we get young people to join, whether it's 1 day a week or one day every 2 evenings that they come and enjoy the cadets, it gives them more motivation to apply to join the armed forces. And then when they want to go university, there's so much potential for them to be funded through their medical qualifications, for the law qualifications or the accountancy qualifications, and then obviously go on to serve in the armed forces with a plethora of opportunities. So I think what we need to do is to work within our communities to raise the profile, because when I was growing up, one of the professions were either you're a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer. That was the thing in South Asian communities. Anything else was a failure. And so what we need to do is to make sure that those young people that, for example, don't become doctors and solicitors, that they don't feel useless. And cadets is an opportunity for young people to get some experience, or the reserves when they become university, when they go to join the university, but then obviously then go on to become members of the military, whichever branch that is.
That's exactly, thank you, Mavia. That's exactly, we discussed a bit before this meeting, that British Army embraces diversity and they are inclusive organization, especially for young women as well. And every job that they have, I think women could easily do that. And you can apply for any job, or you can progress in your career. That's what I was told. Am I right, Peter?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely right. And I'd like to thank Moea for his contribution to this webinar, because it's absolutely brilliant what you've said. But just be mindful that you could become an adult instructor within the cadet force yourself. So you don't lose those skills that you've developed with your military background. And you can make that change from within.
That's right.
And I think I couldn't agree more with you, Maria. I think cultural diversity, but we do need to be able to get more and more role models from different backgrounds, different cultures, and that ties in with the Women's Day as well. It's across the board. And the more role models that are available for this to become more of a cultural norm, the better it's going to be. And that's about engaging with all the communities across the country. So yeah,
thank you.
I'd just like to invite you to put my email address in the chat bar. If you'd like to send me an email, and then we could possibly have a conversation about where we can go for the future, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I've taken a photo of your email and I'll send it to you. I'm just picking the children up from school, so I'm sat in the car with the sun shining on my face. It's 11 degrees, and I can see the water. So but yeah, no, I'm actually in the process of becoming an adult volunteer as well, because what I wanted to do is, if my children were going to join the Air Force and be potentially join the cadets as Air Cadets and join the Air Force, and I wanted to make sure that I understood it better. So I've applied for the adult cadets with my military background, but it's important we pass that message on to the wider community, not just obviously have a military background, public service background, but we need more females to join as well, even as cadets, as adult volunteers.
Yes, absolutely.
I totally agree with you. Taniya, it's just a very challenging question to you. I'm very proud that you're there as a role model, but can you think of any BME background role model within your British Army currently now, young person or anybody else?
From my background, or from my time in service, you're absolutely right. There's very, very few that I've personally served with from a BME background, and that's an indication of the representation across. Certainly, when I joined 30 years ago, I mean, there were only 3% women in the military at that point in time, and as you can imagine, an even lower representation from BME communities. So yeah, it's definitely something that we need to be doing more. We have an organization which is an internal briefing team which does engagement across UK. And there's one of the girls actually that briefs on that. And I'm just trying to remember, I think she might be just trying to think, she was Ghanaian background, but she was absolutely inspirational. The way she used to talk, she was a young soldier, she was a corporal, would give talks to senior executives who were being given an introduction about the British Army, and I was always amazed at how brilliantly she sold it, and she was a really very, very confident, amazing sort of public speaker, a relatively junior rank in the army. So she was talking to senior officers, senior civilian chief executive officers of companies. And she was brilliant as sort of selling the message from her perspective, but not enough of them.
If I could interject there, Sujatha, if you don't mind, I don't know if you remember on Afro Hair Day, there was a young Lance Corporal from Afro-Caribbean heritage who had fought the system. She was shown on the One Show on the BBC.
That's right, I remember.
Gone into the British Army dress regulations about the opportunities to wear the cornrows in her hair, and she, from within, she went up against the system and got that rules and regulations changed. So it's quite clear to, I mean, if you have the determination and you have the right on your side, then you can make a significant change from within the organization. And let's be honest, it's very easy to criticize an organization from outside, but once you're within the organization, you can absolutely make a massive difference. And I know that you're also, you met a colleague of mine, Naveed Mohammed, last week on another webinar where he is the chief advisor to the generals over all matters to do with Islam. So we have got some very key Black, Asian, minority, ethnic service people in key positions who are advising our senior soldiers and senior officers. So we are starting to make that difference. We are starting to become more reflective of society, I believe, but there's an awful lot more work to do. And through webinars like this, where we can get our reach out to a wider audience than what the British Army would do on its own, through working with the mentoring, we're definitely going to be in a better position to become a more reflective, hence a more diverse and a more inclusive organization.
One of the key parts about the military is obviously leadership and teamwork, and we're very much, anyone who's done any studying about teamwork understands that the more diverse your team is, the better the team will be, because you've got different viewpoints, you've got different experiences, and you manage. You can draw so much from a team of diverse individuals, whether that be from whatever your background is, your schooling is, your ethnic background, your gender. All of those things bring something to a team, and that's what the military is about: teamwork. So we fully understand and realize that the real genuine benefits from having as inclusive a workforce as possible, and that is the real way forward now.
Peter, I've got a question for you from the audience. Tahis says, how would we be able to join army or military if we don't know where to start off from?
So put the links in there. Yeah,
I've shared the link.
Have you? Okay.
To all about the British Army and careers within the British Army.
Are you happy, Tahi? Because it was written on the chat box. I didn't want to miss out.
but, you know, I mean, we do still have recruiting offices in Wales. There's 4 available. There's one in Cardiff, there's one in Swansea, there's one up in Wrexham, and there's one in Bangor. So if somebody does need to walk into a careers office when COVID restrictions do allow, there is more information available there. But the website is fully comprehensive about telling you about what your joining standards are, what fitness levels you'd need to be, what educational standards you would need for different roles. And of course, when you do join or go through the application, there's a thing called a British Army recruiting battery test, which is looking to see how your trainability is, or what level of trainability, and it tries to match the more perfect job for your aptitude. And that goes back to what Colonel Taniya was saying, that yeah, I would probably have loved to have been a pilot, but my spatial awareness, you know, wouldn't have got me off the ground. So you know, there's these little tests that are done are able to put people to the best jobs for the skills that they've got and the abilities they've got. And it is open to everybody, you know, it gives a sliding range of opportunity. So all recruiting is now done online, as in once you go through the application, you have to register on that website. Then it asks you to, if you want to become a candidate, it asks you those more basic questions, and then it's an online recruiting process from there on in. There is opportunities to be a regular, which is a full-time employment job, or you've got the Army Reserve with several reserve centres dotted around Wales that you could do part-time at max, you know, a minimum of 27 days in the year, which you could do around your normal job. You know what I mean? So it's transferable skills then. So and also an opportunity to learn new skills that you can bring into both environments.
And I think the other thing it's worth highlighting, Pete, is the fact that you can get so many really, really useful and good qualifications through serving with the military. So you know, you can set yourself up for the future, for beyond your first career, if you like, in the military. So you can, through your vocational training as a soldier or an officer, you can gain NVQs, you can get degrees, you can get lots of qualifications that are transferable and really, really good to use beyond the army. So it's not like you're spending either you do 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, 15 years, you come out the other end at the same level as you went in. You can come out with a whole raft of really, really useful qualifications to take further.
I was told that one can continue to be a doctor or something. Is it possible somebody can do medicine?
Yes, so we have Army Medical Services. So you can be doctors, dentists, vets, and a lot of our doctors all actually work with the NHS. So a lot of the military doctors work a lot of their time actually for and with the NHS across the board. So there's a reciprocal working agreement with them.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the education that once somebody joins army, can they study medicine? I think you sponsor, don't you, British Army sponsors?
Yeah, you do.
Opportunity to have your educational fees paid for if you go through the sponsored recruiting process. All the information, once again, is in the British Army website. But if somebody wants a more detailed conversation about that, then I can point them in the right direction to who to talk to. But yeah, absolutely, there are some fantastic opportunities available.
So how long a person has to be in the army to go and get funded by, you know, for their education, higher education? It could be doctors or engineers or, you know, like Maria said.
There's a number of different systems depending on which one you take, but you can be sponsored through university in a bursary or a scholarship, and depending on the level of sponsorship will have an impact on how long your commitment after university. So for example, I was an Army bursar. They they didn't pay for me to go through university, but I got a sum of money each year. And then I was committed to 3 years after I left. It's changed slightly since I was there. So Pete might have the absolute up-to-date details. But you do have a minimum service as a commitment to effectively pay back that sponsorship through university.
The bursaries are still available. There's a British Army Support and Education site, which is part of the British Army site, which you can get that information. It can fund you so you go to university with the fact that the British Army has supported you. So once you go into the recruiting process, you say, yes, I'm quite happy to get this bursary, as Colonel Taniya said. Once you've got that tick in the box, you go to university. You do support, you do some interjections with the Army to say that, yes, you're still there, you're still doing your course, you're still committed to joining the Army at the end of it. And then once you've finished your course and got your degrees, then that will then a set time, as Colonel Taniya said, within the Army it's a sort of a payback so that you got your free university education on the back of that. So it's a way of entering employment without having any debt, and obviously gets you a good job from the go-get as well. So I noticed we're very close to the end of the time. The hour has just flown by. So I did have one more question, but I won't go into that now. So I'd just like to thank you both for a good insight into and sharing your life and your experiences with us, especially about the fly-in and your education as well. So on behalf of myself and the British Army, thank you very much, and hope you enjoyed watching this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sujatha.
Thank you, Taniya. Lovely seeing you and meeting you. Thank you, Pete, for this day, especially International Women's Day, for both of us to come in, Taniya and myself, to speak on behalf of British Army and also about our experiences. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.